world does not reward those who chase after approval. It rewards those who stand firm in their purpose, unshaken by the shifting tides of public opinion. The chosen ones, those who are set apart, who leave a lasting mark, are not driven by applause. They are moved by something deeper, something unshakable, something that burns within them even when the world turns its back. There is something tragic about the one who bends and twists themselves to fit the mold that society has created. They crave validation, but in doing so they lose the very essence of who they are. The chosen ones understand something fundamental. Popularity is fleeting, but purpose is eternal. They do not wake up in the morning wondering what the world expects of them. They wake up determined to fulfill the task set before them. They have been entrusted with something sacred, a vision, a mission, a calling. And they refuse to compromise it for momentary approval. This is why the road they walk is often a lonely one. When you commit yourself to purpose over popularity, you will find that the crowd thins. People will not always understand you. They may ridicule you, dismiss you, even oppose you. And this is where most people falter. They assume that rejection means they are on the wrong path. But in reality, rejection is often the confirmation that you are exactly where you are meant to be. The greatest figures in history were misunderstood, even despised in their time. They did not conform, and because of that, they were feared. But in the end, they were the ones who shaped the world. It is a dangerous thing to place your worth in the hands of others. The moment you do, you become a puppet, dancing to the tune of those who may or may not have your best interests at heart. But the one who walks in purpose does not seek permission to be who they are. They do not need the world to approve of them before they take action. They know that if they waited for everyone to understand, they would never move. They are not reckless, but they are relentless. They are not arrogant, but they are unapologetic. They are not blind to criticism, but they refuse to let it dictate their course. History has shown us time and time again that those who choose purpose over popularity are the ones who make the greatest impact. They are the ones who create, who build, who transform. They do not waste their energy trying to fit in, because they were never meant to. They were designed to stand out, to challenge, to disrupt. The chosen ones are not afraid of standing alone, because they know that solitude is often the birthplace of greatness. They do not fear rejection because they have already accepted that not everyone will understand their journey. They do not seek validation because they are already anchored in something far deeper than the shifting opinions of others. What is the price of living for approval? It is the slow death of authenticity. It is the erosion of self-respect. It is the suffocating weight of a life that is dictated by the expectations of others. The chosen ones refuse to pay that price. They would rather be misunderstood and true to themselves than celebrated for something they are not. They would rather walk the hard road of purpose than the easy road of popularity. Because in the end, they understand that only one of these roads leads to real fulfillment. There is something deeply liberating about choosing purpose over popularity. It frees you from the exhausting task of pleasing everyone. It allows you to focus your energy on what truly matters. And more than that, it places you in alignment with something greater than yourself. Because purpose is not just about personal ambition, it is about contribution. It is about serving something beyond yourself. It is about using your gifts, your skills, your voice to create something meaningful, something lasting. And when you live this way, you discover something extraordinary. The right people, the right opportunities, the right doors begin to open, not because you chased after them, but because you became the kind of person who naturally attracts them. At first, the world may resist you, it may criticize, mock, or ignore you. But purpose has a way of proving itself over time. The noise of doubters fades, but the impact of those who stay the course lasts. Those who once ridiculed begin to watch. Those who once dismissed begin to listen, and those who once opposed begin to respect. But by then, the chosen ones no longer care, because they did not do it for applause. They did not do it for recognition. They did it because they could not do otherwise. Because purpose is not something you choose. It is something that chooses you. And once it does, there is no turning back. There comes a point in life when the noise around you fades, when the people you once relied on step back, and when the path ahead seems empty. It is in this moment, in the silence of isolation, that something profound happens. You are left alone, not as a punishment, but as a preparation. Before elevation comes separation. Before you rise, you must first stand alone. It is an uncomfortable truth, but a necessary one. Those who are called to something greater must go through seasons of solitude, because greatness is never developed in the crowd. It is forged in the quiet, in the stillness, in the moments where it is just you and the weight of your purpose. Most people fear isolation. They mistake it for abandonment, for rejection. They assume that being left alone means they have failed or that they are unworthy of companionship, but the truth is quite the opposite. Isolation is not a sign that you have been forgotten. It is a sign that you are being prepared. When life removes certain people from your circle, it is often because they can no longer walk the road you are meant to travel. Not everyone is supposed to go where you are going. Not everyone will understand what you carry. And that is why at certain points in your journey, you must walk alone. Not forever, but for long enough to be transformed. There is something about being alone with your thoughts that forces you to confront who you really are. The distractions fall away, the opinions of others grow distant, and you are left with nothing but yourself. And that is exactly where real growth begins. Because as long as you are surrounded by noise, by constant validation, by endless affirmation, you will never be forced to dig deep. You will never ask yourself the hard questions. We must answer ourselves on questions that will come from us with harmony, instinct, or wisdom. You will never develop the strength that comes from facing your own doubts, fears, and insecurities head on. Solitude is not a curse, it is a gift. It is the place where you learn to stand on your own 2 feet, where you become independent in your thinking, where you sharpen your vision without interference. History has proven this time and time again. The greatest minds, the most influential leaders, the most powerful thinkers, all of them went through a period of isolation before they stepped into their full potential. They were rejected before they were accepted. They were doubted before they were celebrated. They were misunderstood before they were respected. And yet, they did not let their solitude break. Instead, they allowed it to shape them, to refine them, to strengthen them. They used it as a time to build, to learn, to grow. They understood something that most people never grasp. That isolation is not the end of the road. It is the training ground. It is in the quiet seasons that you discover what you are truly made of. When no one is watching, when no one is praising you, when no one is cheering you on, are you then? What drives you when there is no applause? What sustains you when there is no recognition? The chosen ones understand that their purpose is not dependent on external validation. They do not need the approval of the masses to know they are on the right path. They do not need constant reassurance to keep moving forward. Their fire comes from within, not from the fleeting opinions of others. This is what separates those who are truly called to something greater from those who are merely chasing success. The ones who are chosen are willing to endure the lonely seasons because they know what is on the other side. They do not complain about being misunderstood. They embrace it. They do not shrink back when they feel alone. They lean in. They use their isolation as a time to sharpen their minds, to deepen their wisdom, to strengthen their resolve. And when the time comes, when the season of separation has done its work, they emerge, not as they once were, but as something stronger, something wiser, something unshakable. But here's the thing, most people do not make it through this stage. They mistake isolation for failure. They assume that because the doors are not opening, because the invitations are not coming, because the support is not there, that they must be on the wrong path. And so they retreat. They go back to what is familiar. They settle for a life that is comfortable but unremarkable. They choose belonging over becoming. But the chosen ones do not settle. They do not allow temporary loneliness to rob them of their destiny. They understand that elevation requires separation, that before they can be entrusted with more, they must first prove that they can stand alone. There is a reason why the strongest trees have the deepest roots. They do not grow overnight. They are not weakly attached to the surface, swaying with every gust of wind. No, their roots go deep, extending far beneath the ground, anchoring them in place. And how do those roots develop? Through pressure, through resistance, through the passing of time. A tree that is never tested by storms will never develop the strength to stand tall. And so it is with those who are called to something greater. They must first be rooted in solitude, tested by seasons of silence, strengthened by the very challenges that others run from. If you find yourself in a place of isolation, do not despise it. Do not rush to escape it. Do not assume that something is wrong. Perhaps something is being built within you. Perhaps you are being given the time, the space, the clarity to become the person you need to be for what is coming next. Use this time wisely. Study, reflect, strengthen yourself. Because the ones who rise are the ones who did not crumble when they were alone. They are the ones who use the quiet seasons to prepare so that when the moment of elevation came, they were ready. One day the doors will open, the opportunities will come, the people who once overlooked you will take notice, but by then you will have already been transformed. You will no longer need their approval because you will have already found something far greater. Clarity, purpose, and the unshakable knowledge that you were always meant for more. Not because the world said so, but because you endured the process, and in that process, you became exactly who you were meant to be. Life will test you. That is not a possibility. It is a certainty. If you are going to pursue anything meaningful, anything worthwhile, anything that demands the best of you, then suffering is not something you might experience. It is something you will experience. The question is not whether adversity will come. The question is what you will do when it does. Because it is in those moments when everything seems to be against you, when nothing is going your way, when the world feels like it is pressing down on your shoulders, that you are given a choice. Either break under the weight of it or use it to become something stronger. Most people crumble. That is the sad truth. They encounter resistance and they take it as a sign to stop. They experience failure and they assume it means they are not capable. They are met with rejection and they let it define them. But the ones who are truly set apart, the ones who accomplish something extraordinary, do not see adversity as the end of the road. They see it as a proving ground. They understand that difficulty is not an obstacle to greatness. It is the very thing that produces it. They know that resilience is not a trait you are born with, but something that is developed through fire, through hardship, through the relentless refusal to quit. You will face moments when you are knocked down so hard that getting back up feels impossible. Moments when the voices in your head tell you that you are wasting your time, that you are not good enough, that you should just walk away. Moments when it would be easier, so much easier, to give up, to lower your expectations, to settle for something safer. And many people do. They let the struggle defeat them. They convince themselves that they were never meant for more. And maybe they are right, because the truth is, only those who are willing to endure the pain of growth will ever reach their full potential. You will never meet a person who is truly great, who has accomplished something significant, who has left a lasting impact, and who has not endured suffering. That person does not exist. Because resilience is not born out of ease. Strength is not developed in comfort. The very nature of growth requires resistance. If you go to a gym and lift a weight that does not challenge you, you will not become stronger. And then, if you only push yourself as far as what feels comfortable, you will never improve. The same is true for life. If you only take on what is easy, if you only pursue what guarantees success, if you run at the first sign of struggle, you will remain exactly where you are. There is something powerful about a person who refuses to be broken. A person who, no matter how many times they fall, stands back up. A person who takes failure and uses it as fuel. A person who looks adversity in the eye and says, "You will not defeat me." That kind of individual is unstoppable. Not because they never experience hardship, but because they have learned to use hardship as a tool. Instead of being crushed by life's difficulties, they are shaped by them. Instead of allowing pain to weaken them, they allow it to forge something within them that nothing and no one can take away. The reality is that most people avoid struggle. They spend their lives seeking comfort, avoiding risk, doing everything they can to stay in a place where they feel safe. But in doing so, they rob themselves of the very experiences that would have made them stronger. They choose ease over excellence, and they pay for it with a life that is small, predictable, and ultimately unfulfilled. The ones who refuse to live that way are the ones who understand a simple truth: nothing worth having comes without a price. If you want success, if you want impact, if you want to become the kind of person who can withstand the storms of life, then you must be willing to suffer. Not endlessly, not without reason, but for the sake of something greater. You must be willing to wake up earlier than everyone else, to work harder than everyone else, to endure failures that would cause most people to quit. You must be willing to look rejection in the face and try again. You must be willing to hear people tell you that you are not good enough and keep going anyway. You must be willing to lose before you win, to struggle before you succeed, to be doubted before you are believed in, because that is the process. And those who make it through are not the ones who were the most talented, the most privileged, or the most fortunate. They are the ones who refuse to stop. There is a reason why the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. Without heat, it remains weak. Without pressure, it remains fragile. But when it is placed in the furnace, when it is hammered, when it is shaped by resistance, it becomes something unbreakable. The same is true for you. If you avoid the fire, if you run from struggle, if you shrink back every time life gets hard, you will never develop into what you were meant to be. But if you embrace it, if you allow adversity to refine you rather than destroy you, then there is no limit to how strong you can become. It will not be easy. Nothing truly valuable ever is, but it will be worth it. Because one day you will look back at every obstacle, every hardship, every painful moment, and you will realize that those were the things that made you. Those were the moments that separated you from everyone else. Those were the battles that gave you the strength to stand when others fell. And when that day comes, you will not regret a single scar. Because you will know that you earned every inch of the ground you stand on. You did not inherit it. You did not stumble upon it. You fought for it. And because of that, nothing and no one will ever be able to take it from you. There comes a time when you realize that your life is not just about you, that your existence is not measured by what you accumulate, how much you achieve, or how high you climb, but by what you leave behind. There is a reason why the greatest among us, the ones whose names are remembered long after they are gone, do not spend their lives chasing temporary success. They are not obsessed with status, applause, or fleeting recognition. They are moved by something greater, something deeper, something that outlives them. They understand that their vision must be bigger than themselves. They know that the only thing that truly matters is the impact they make. the lives they touch, and the legacy they leave behind. Most people do not think this way. They are consumed by the present moment, caught up in the pursuit of immediate gratification. They chase money, fame, and power, never stopping to ask themselves whether any of it will matter in the end. They live as if life is endless, as if time is not slipping through their fingers with every passing day. And because of that, they waste it. They pour their energy into things that will be forgotten, into accomplishments that will fade, into pursuits that will die with them. But the ones who are truly chosen, the ones who make an impact that cannot be erased, are different. They do not just think about the next month, the next year, or even the next decade. They think in terms of generations. They ask themselves, what will remain when I am gone? There is something profound about understanding that your time here is limited, that one day, whether you want to face it or not, you will no longer be here. And when that day comes, the only thing that will matter is what you built, what you created, what you left behind for others. Did you spend your life serving only yourself, or did you pour yourself into something bigger? Did you settle for temporary success, or did you build something that would continue to grow long after you were gone? These are the questions that define whether you were truly great or whether you simply passed through life without making a real difference. The world is filled with people who once had potential, people who once had dreams, visions, ideas, things that could have changed the course of history, things that could have impacted countless lives. But those ideas never became reality. Those dreams died in silence. Not because they were impossible, not because they were unworthy, but because the people who carried them did not have the courage, the discipline, or the vision to see them through. They were distracted. They were afraid. They were too caught up in chasing things that did not matter. And so their potential was buried, their impact was lost, and the world never got to see what they could have built. You cannot allow that to be your story. You cannot allow your vision to die because you were too afraid to step into it. You cannot allow your purpose to be wasted because you were too distracted by things that did not matter. You must choose to build something that lasts. And building something that lasts is not easy. It is not glamorous. It is not something that happens overnight. It requires sacrifice. It requires discipline. It requires enduring failure, rejection, and opposition. It requires facing moments when you will want to quit, moments when no one will believe in you, moments when everything in you will want to walk away. And yet, those who create legacies do not quit. They press on, not because it is easy, but because they understand that what they are building is bigger than themselves. You must stop thinking only about today. You must stop chasing things that will disappear the moment you are gone. Ask yourself, what am I building that will outlive me? Because that is the only thing that truly matters. The wealth you accumulate, the power you gain, the recognition you receive, none of it will last. None of it will be remembered. But the lives you impact, the people you inspire, the work you create, that is what will remain. That is what will carry forward long after you are no longer here. The world does not need more people chasing fame, does not need more people trying to be liked, trying to be impressive, trying to be important. It needs people who are willing to sacrifice for something greater. People who are willing to dedicate themselves to a vision that is not about them, but about those who will come after them. People who are willing to endure hardship, rejection, and suffering for the sake of something that will last. The ones who change the world are the ones who are willing to be misunderstood, willing to be criticized, willing to walk alone if that is what it takes to fulfill their purpose. It is not enough to live for yourself. That is too small. That is too empty. That is too meaningless. If your vision does not extend beyond your own life, then it is not big enough. If your goals do not impact others, then they are not important enough. You must be willing to build something that does not just serve you, but serves others. Something that does not just make your life better, but makes the world better. Something that does not just satisfy you in the moment, but continues to grow, to inspire, to shape the future long after you are gone. One day, your time here will be over. That is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you up, to remind you that you do not have unlimited time, that you cannot afford to waste another day, another year, another moment on things that do not matter, that you must start now, that you must build now, that you must create now, because the future is shaped by those who have the courage to act today. And when that day comes, when your name is no longer spoken, when your presence is no longer felt, when all that remains of you is what you left behind? Will it be enough? Will you have done what you were meant to do? Will you have built something that stands, something that continues, something that lasts? That is the only measure of a life well lived. And it is a measure that only you can decide to meet.